public session.
Motion.
Second. Thank you.
Mr. McOwen, Mr. Rose, all those in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Farron is not present for the vote. Communications from the public.
We'll take communications from the public now.
Good evening. As a reminder, there is no legal limit for the Board of Education to recognize public comment at meetings of the Board of Education. However, the Board recognizes the critical importance of community discourse and involvement in the education of Mount Vernon's children, and accordingly, members of the public are invited to speak at each regularly scheduled board meeting, subject to the terms of the board policy. Any resident of Mount Vernon, or any student, parent, or guardian of a student, teacher, administrator, or employee of the Mount Vernon City School District are permitted to speak. No other person shall be permitted to speak without the approval of the board. Speakers must register in advance no later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting by contacting the district clerk in person at 165 North Columbus Avenue, Mount Vernon, by phone 914-665-5235, or via email at rmccormack@mtvernoncsd.org. When registering, speakers are requested to indicate the nature of their remarks, and the board always welcomes respectful comment, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, or other Mount Vernon education official or employee is strictly prohibited. Any such complaint must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak, with up to one additional minute may be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. This evening's first speaker is Delia Farquharson.
Good evening to the board and to the community. I'm Delia Farquharson, and I'm here to, of course, state my unequivocal support for the bond and to commend the board for the work that they're doing to improve public education in our community. I'm also here because I have sent to most members of the board, and forgive me for the two whose names I misspelled, but I sent documents over regarding a program called My Brother's Keeper, which was launched in 2014 by President Obama out of the White House. And this program, My Brother's Keeper, is targeted to try to improve the lot in life for young men of color. The program is a documented program that has an evidence-based program that has 6 identified goals. And the great thing about this program is that I think it aligns seamlessly with the goals of this school district. And I'm here to ask that the challenge that has been set forth by President Obama out of the White House be accepted on the behalf of the community by this school board. That this school board be the body that chooses to move forward in accepting My Brother's Keeper's challenge, so that as a community we can begin to work on the established goals, which include ensuring our children enter school ready to read, that our children are ready to reading by the 3rd grade, that they graduate on time and with skills ready for the workforce, that they have a safe community. And so these are things that I think, align seamlessly with the established goals of this board. And I think that the wonderful job that has been done by this board in terms of promoting and explaining the bond makes it even more appropriate that the continuation, once this bond is accepted by our community, and I'm going to speak that into existence. Once this bond is accepted by our community, then, aligning behind a program like My Brother's Keeper is something that will bring the community together, will provide a vehicle for accountability, and will also be able to focus the goals of this, both the program and the school district. So I think for me, it's not a difficult decision to make, and there's really nothing to object to. So I really would like to ask this board to consider the material that I've sent over, and to really consider accepting the challenge on the behalf of our community. And I am willing to come back to present or to synthesize the information about My Brother's Keeper to the community and to this board so that it's easier perhaps for us to make a decision. Just please note that there are timelines associated with this program in terms of acceptance. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah.
Ms. Farquharson, we'll invite you to come to our next Family and Community Engagement Committee meeting so that you can take us through it, and then we'll make a recommendation to the board.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is former trustee Francis Wynn.
Good evening, Mount Vernon Board of Education. This is a funny place to be standing. I'm here to back up what Mrs. Farquharson has just explained partially to you, and as she said, she would be willing to come back, and we would be. It is a no-brainer. It is as if this program was almost put together for Mount Vernon. Looking back over the things that have happened over the past years and looking at our situation, this is like a dream being answered, and I would hope that this board would seriously, yes it does, augment your 2020 vision. It would make the best use of the bond, which I think you're smart in doing. I'd like to say that years ago, when we did the bond for $100 million, at that time we knew that we needed one for 200, but we couldn't do that. Now you're doing it, and it makes sense. So I hope that it will be voted on positively, but I also hope that you will look at a bigger picture, because this larger picture can include everything that you already have on your agenda. And you have some very good things. I do watch television when it's Channel 33. And I see what goes on. But I do say that we can't sleep this one. It's not about us, it's for the children. This program is in New Rochelle, but it's almost needed more so in Mount Vernon. This program is in Philadelphia, it's in Newark, it's in Boston, it's in Syracuse. It's all over the country, and those of you who have received the information will see the list of cities where it is being implemented. So this challenge, I hope we will take the challenge in Mount Vernon. And if we don't, I'd like to know why, because it brings together all the things that we have been trying to do, and many things that you are proposing to do now. And because we want a strong future for Mount Vernon, there's no reason that we should be in the situation that we are in right now. And I even cherish all of the negative things that happen, because out of adversity, it makes us work harder, and it will help us to focus. So here we are with a city in need, with a plan on the table that you have there, but with a greater, larger plan proposed by President Obama that will bring all of it, most of it at least, to fruition. So thank you for this time, and you'll hear more about us. We are awake. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wynn.
Our next speaker is Monique Scott.
Good night. I wasn't expected to be called so soon. I just came in from work. I am a concerned parent. I also
Ms. Scott,
graduated
can
from...
you speak into...
Sure. I am a concerned parent. I graduated from Mount Vernon High School years ago. I also was a teenage mom, and now graduate school, doctoral program. And I'm very concerned, really, because my area is mental health, is the environment of the children. I love that we're having this bond and we're going to have this whole rigorous program, which I see a lot of rigorous. I keep seeing that word rigorous. And I really want to know, what do we mean by rigorous? Because rigorous does not necessarily mean that it doesn't need to be extremely difficult or overwhelming for a child for them to be very successful. I've done a lot of reading, Montessori, Waldorf. There's a lot of different approaches we can take into consideration with these children. So the question I have is, how will their environment be impacted? How will it be affected by this bond? More so the mental health, feeling safe. Because I did not feel safe when I used to go to Mount Vernon High School. And then I have a daughter who is 16, and when she went to the middle school, she did not feel safe. And even with the support of teachers, I don't know if they even have enough support to deal with the type of issues that we have right now. I remember getting a comment from a teacher saying, well, you know what, the parents need to be more involved, that's the problem. The reality is we have to accept the culture of Mount Vernon. We're black, we're predominantly black. We have different needs. I do believe that. I believe we interpret things differently. Children get diagnosed differently. I've seen it, I do it. I've seen a black child get diagnosed differently than with a white psychiatrist versus a black psychiatrist. So I'm aware that this can happen. It's also in education. So I don't hear enough about that, the environment, the mental health. What are we doing for these kids where their outlooks, they can come to school and be themselves. I mean, you shouldn't have to be in constant fear that you're going to get beat up. My friend, I took my daughter out of the school. Her friend became a target. Her friend became to the point where she was suicidal. Did you talk to anyone? No. And this happens all the time. And I'm not just speaking off my personal behalf, but also the children who I do take care of, which many of them are from Mount Vernon School District. And they're going out of Mount Vernon for a lot of resources for the mental health. How are we going to incorporate that in education? How do we break the stigma in the black community about mental health so these kids can really have a truly productive education?
I can respond, yes. Good evening, thank you for your comments. I think you raise a very interesting point because communities like Mount Vernon, children do come with very different needs. It's not because they're black, however. In my estimation,
Okay.
It is a symptom of the conditions under which in poverty learn to function. So I think one of the things that we have to do organizationally and systematically is change the culture. And that means not just educating children, but educating families as well, so that we really impact the conditions of poverty. Rigor, and you spoke about rigor. Rigor isn't just about making things difficult for children. It's about challenging children so that they are stretched to be the best that they can be, wherever they are in that continuum of academic achievement and social development. What we're doing specifically has a lot to do with how we utilize our guidance counselors, for example, so that our guidance counselors really become an extension of the school and a bridge to the home, not creating wider gaps between school and home, but bridging the gap that currently exists. We've actually hired a family liaison whose responsibility, I think I saw her here this evening actually, yes, in the back, whose responsibilities really do that, help us to engage our families in our community so that we are working in unison to develop citizens who learn how to function in a democratic society. But it's going to take some doing, because there are some things that we tolerate culturally that should not be tolerated. We have normalized things that have not been normalized. And part of the way we do that is to help empower and educate our parents by giving them the knowledge and information so they understand how am I to partner with the school and what knowledge do I need to have in my bag of tricks that will help improve my repertoire as a parent. So those are some of the things that we have challenged our family liaison and our guidance counselors to really work with kids and their families to be able to do. And lastly, there are a vast array of programs and agencies in Mount Vernon that focus on mental health. Unfortunately, they're not coordinated. So we've been really working on coordinating these services so that there's a clear understanding about, well, who do I go to if my family needs help or if my child needs help? And then how do we use the information that we have statistically to identify those youngsters, even if they are not acting out per se, but we know that they have a history of familial destabilization that is prevalent in the community because we've had the older brother or we've had the older sister. We know that it's likely to impact those youngsters. So those are some of the things that we have in place. It is not a quick fix, it is not a panacea, but it is certainly something that is on our radar as we work to change the conditions of poverty that impact children's ability to learn and function.
So specifically for the child whose parents are not involved, for the child whose mom never ever been hugged or even read a bedtime story at night, so specifically for those kids who really have, their parents don't even have the foundation to push them and encourage them. that's, how will this apply to them? Because at the end of the day, we want parents to be vocal, but that kid is going to be lost until the parent gets to that point, if they ever get to that point. So how, like, are we taking more responsibility now, understanding that concept? Because there's a lot of dynamics that some of these families are just going to struggle for the rest of their life, and they may never get to this hope or dream that we expect them to be.
And can I just, that's one of the things that the initiative that Delia Farquharson and Trustee Wynn just brought to the table, because part of that initiative is helping us to close the gap and bring all of these services together as one. And because that's the issue, because I spoke to this when Dr. Hamilton went up to White Plains about some of the same issues, because the reality is that the school district is what it is. It's a school district, and most of the professionals within this district are teachers. They're not social workers, they're not psychologists, they're not mental health. They don't have professional licenses or anything in those areas, so it's difficult for them to do exactly what you're asking. Not that they may not want to, but technically by profession, that's not really what they're trained to do. So what we're doing as a district, and what Dr. Hamilton has just spoke to, is that the best thing we can do, for one, is partner with the outside districts to ensure that these children that need these services get these services, but it's not as simple as a process as it may be, because the social and emotional issues that our children are going through is new to not just Mount Vernon, but it's new to the school system, period, abroad, when you look at it from a national standpoint. But what I can promise you that as a board and as this administration is that we are determined to help a child get everything they need while they're in our care through partnerships and through working with community efforts like Delia Farquharson just brought to the table as far as the Brothers Keeper initiative.
Right. One more, I guess, comment, question.
What I'd like to encourage you to do, because it sounds like I would really like to talk to you offline, if you could make sure that I have your information so that we could have a real intimate conversation about what you do, your services, and
Yeah, because
specifically
I wouldn't
for
say,
those
how can I
concerns.
help? What can I do?
And I'm going to tell
help
you
bridge
exactly
that?
how you can do that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Monroe.
Good evening, honorable trustees and community. Dr. Hamilton, president of the board. I find it so appropriate that I'm actually following Ms. Scott, and I want to thank her for bringing this issue to for dialogue, because it seems like a footnote to something that I'd like to bring to the podium today, and it's something we've discussed before in what I believe is a need, and I think it's a crisis moment in this country's social and obviously political and in many ways cultural future in terms of how we educate our children. I think the need for Afrocentric studies need to be put on the table again for open dialogue. We've brought it to, by we I mean myself and other people in this community have brought it to the podium over the years just to have it considered as a curricular and other administrative focus for this district, but it's never been addressed publicly, and I'd like to know why. I think there are plenty of data going back dozens of years now. Quite frankly, there are oral traditions that date back supposedly 50 to 70,000 years in Africa alone that speak to the human experience and how much of it has been fortified in places like Africa. Many of those descendants are here in the Western Hemisphere and are in our public schools. There are clinical studies and data that go back 50 to 60 years talking about the actual damage that white supremacy has done to children of color, starting with the most popular, like the doll test, for instance, talking about how black children prefer to look at white dolls and consider them good or a black doll bad. You know, these are some of the most fundamental evidence of the very critical so-called race relations issues that lay at the foundations of this country. We can talk about clinical studies that look at clinical behavior, and behavioral scientists like Neely Fuller, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, Bobby Wright, Joy Leary and others, going back again, you know, over 40 years, that talk about what it is white supremacy has done to not just African children and the descendants thereof, but even white families and white children and adults. And we're seeing it today as you look at our political battles and our economic and other social struggles in this country. I want to close out with what I consider, because obviously there are other studies too that ratify the possibilities for African or what they'd like to call ethnic studies, and that there are academic and social value to these ideas. If you ever consider those particular studies too liberal, I'd like you to consider that there is, at least as recent as 2011, the NEA, the National Education Association, published a study, a review really, that it called The Academic and Social Value of Ethnic Studies. In its conclusion, I'd like to quote, just to close out, what it felt was the conclusive view of ethnic studies, as it's called. Both students of color and white students have been found to benefit academically as well as socially from ethnic studies. Indeed, rather than being non-academic, well-planned ethnic studies curricula are often very academically rigorous. Rather than being divisive, ethnic studies help students to bridge differences that already exist in experience and perspectives. In these ways, ethnic studies plays an important role in building a truly inclusive, multicultural democracy and system of education. Sorry, cracked phone screen. So I basically want to close out to say that the fact is that we can no longer avoid these things. If you have so-called Beyonce-type crises coming about in this country because we can't talk about race, we're devaluing our children and their futures. I'd like you to consider how to undo that in the education process. Mind you, there are obvious mental and other social values, but we want to talk about education, how academy can deal with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Claudia Boyd. Former trustee Brenda L. Crump.
Could we, before Trustee Crump go, could we just refer Mr. Monroe to the Educational Committee to have that discussion, and then the Education Committee bring that back to the board as far as what conversation and thoughts came out of that?
You have his information.
We have it.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
There's about 3 things that I want to talk about. I'm going to limit it to 3. You know, I can talk about a lot of things. I can talk when it comes to children and families in our district. One is I want to find out about our perfect attendance ceremony, because I believe it's usually around about this time we hear some kind of buzz or something, and I know with the transition of department heads or administrators and so forth, sometimes things fall through the crack, and so I want to raise that to our school board trustees and our administration attention now. Are we going to have a perfect attendance award, because we know that not all children are going to succeed athletically or succeed on the honor roll, but we need to, as a district, find every opportunity that we can to recognize and honor our children for the scholastic things that they do, for the things that they do very well. And the perfect attendance, it has grown to district-wide, and so that is was a great thing that we are, shall I say, it is a great thing that we are doing, so I hope that we continue that, and I'd like to know when is that going to be. And also in regards to the Mount Vernon High School building use for the mayor inaugural ball, I see that it's on the resolution, because that was, I mean, on the agenda, because that was also on my list here. So I will ask the question as to why are we just receiving that, because that was January 1st, and here we are almost at the end of February. We've had quite a few meetings, and so I see it's there, so you can answer that question as to why we're just receiving that. And then lastly, the building tours. I think the tours are great. Learned a lot of information, even as a long-time parent in the district, and my children have gone to many of the schools because of the number of children we have, but then also because of the different academic levels. And so attending the different buildings, I think the tours were great. However, I would just like to offer and remind some of the administration who was here or who wasn't here, and trustees, that in the past we did have building tours in the evening, because 7 a.m. and 1 p.m., and then the marketing of the building tours, because attending PTA council meeting last night, there were a lot of officers who were not aware, parents as well who were not aware of the building tour. And I know it was stated that it's on the website, but I want us to move beyond just the communication of the website with our community, because having that building tour was very important for the bond, and I hope as we go forward that we can have an opportunity for parents to have that tour again, that they can actually see the changes. And I've recommended during the building tours that we please remember to take pictures of all these wonderful things that's going to be transpiring, taking place, so that we can really appreciate it, because not many of our community are in our buildings, and even those parents whose children go to the building, they're not in certain areas of the building. In closing, I want to say that in one of the building tours, of all of them, this left my heart the saddest, and that was Mandela. In reference, I'm not sure if the trustees and administration have been there in regards to see where these children eat, because there are two areas, one in the cafeteria where the food service is, and then this other room is just deplorable. And I feel up right now because we talk about morale, and if we see where the children are having to eat, and I took pictures, and the fourth floor where there's the gymnasium, there's two weightlifting rooms, there's the, I think, health room and an English room, and there's no restroom on the fourth floor. There's no restroom on the third floor, I mean, excuse me, not fourth, third floor, second floor, first floor for the children. There's restrooms, as was said, for staff, but the children have to go all the way down to the ground floor basement where there's male and female, and then going into the restroom, there are stalls missing on the doors. Some of the doors are not able to shut if the door is there. I was just so sad that the condition at which our children are in right now. So in closing, I know that there's been some discussion, I'm assuming, that there's been some discussion of the board as to what the district would like to do, might want to do with Mandela. I would ask that the board have some open discussion here before the community of your thoughts of what's going to happen in reference to Mandela, in reference to the 2020 vision plan. But I suggest that we go in there and we take a look now at the deplorable conditions that our children are in that building. Thank you.
I would like to hear a response to Mrs. Crump. I'm aware of one bathroom in Mandela that has been out of commission due to some leaks that was coming down, but to hear that 3 bathrooms are out of commission, I will...
It's not that, they just don't...
We're talking about the water. It's not a drip, it's a consistent run. So as far as water bill and usage, so just 24/7, this water is running in that bathroom that's all...
Yeah, so I'm aware of that, so could either Ken or maybe Leslie, I'm not sure. Leslie, are you familiar with the, either Leslie or Ken, could you speak to the conditions of Mandela's building?
Well, our subcommittee has not walked through Mandela yet. I know the community walkthrough happened, and as in all the walkthroughs that we have done in the past and will continue to do in the future throughout the facilities, we note all the deficiencies that are apparent, and we'll be addressing them within our budget. So it's not something that we're even waiting for bonds necessarily. Some of the daily use items such as toilets and bathrooms, and I believe Mr. Silver is working on the budget for next year in terms of what we can do throughout the school district in terms of facility beautification, and also beautification is not only external, it's internal as well, but it's more encompassing than just making things pretty. It's making things work, efficient, and plausible for the use by the students.
And go ahead, Mr. Silver.
The bathrooms at Mandela are not planned as part of the bond. They are planned as part of the budget, because we don't want to have to wait for approval from the state education department. So that project is already in planning, and we would anticipate that that's going to be done over the summer. However, the determination as to what is going to be done with that building is a part of the determination of how much we want to do in that building. So part has to come first, but we repair and...
No, I'm aware of the plans. What I'm asking, I guess maybe I didn't make myself clear. What I'm asking is, I'm aware of why one bathroom is shut down due to some heavy work that really needs to be done in that bathroom, that we decided to close that bathroom because the work was too extraneous to do at this present time. But Ms. Crump mentioned a few bathrooms that were closed, and I'm trying to figure out was it not something that we could have done to make it more accessible and useful for the students so that they have access to these rooms and don't have to travel thus far just to get to a restroom. So
Those are teacher bathrooms. The students' only bathrooms are in the basement.
But what I'm saying is that, so staff gets a bathroom on,
Right.
with the exception of third floor, staff gets a bathroom, a restroom on every floor except for the students.
Right.
The school buildings are about the students. Not to say that our staff aren't important. Our staff know I support them as well. However, that there aren't any facilities on the level for students. It's for staff, and students have to go down to the ground level.
All right, I'm going
for
to ask
restrooms.
Mr. Policio to respond to that, who is our assistant facilities director.
Hello, everybody. Yes, we are aware of the conditions of the bathrooms at Mandela. We can make a correction on the third floor and try to get one of them open. We were, again, waiting to see where we're headed with this building. There are extensive repairs that need to go on in these bathrooms to make them accessible and safe. Whether or not we can take a staff bathroom away and make it a children's bathroom, we can surely do that immediately with the permission of the administration. So we can make that correction and have the staff a little more inconvenienced to go downstairs another floor, and we can do that immediately, sir.
So with the,
right, so
with the
we'll-
agreement with this board, Dr. Henderson, I would simply ask if you can come back to
We
us.
can't hear you. We can't
Speak into the mic.
With the agreement of this board, I'm asking the superintendent if you can get back to us at the next board meeting.
Yes, because we would need to know why
Yeah, absolutely.
those things too. So, and I appreciate Mrs. Crump bringing that issue to the table, but we also need to hear the other, what happens
absolutely.
administratively in that building in terms of what those circumstances are. That's one. In terms of what's happening with Mandela, there is a committee in place. And once that committee makes their recommendation to the administration, we'll make that recommendation to the board, and then at that point, the board will have a full discussion about the status of Mandela and how it fits in with the bond, or how it fits in with the general operating budget. In terms of the perfect attendance, yes, we will be having perfect attendance awards. They are not scheduled yet, but we acknowledge that they need to be done, and we will continue that practice. Regarding the resolution for the mayor's ball, that bill has actually been prepared. It didn't make the last agenda. I was actually holding that for this particular meeting. So it's out there now, so there's really no, other than timing, there really was no justification or no reason for the bill not making an early agenda. And building tours, your point is well taken in terms of publicizing them. I do want to encourage our parents. We did do a robocall, at least one that I recall, about building tours.
I recall a robocall about many things, but not the building tour. I know Thornton did, because I asked the principal if she would, and the PTA council, if they would inform.
Maybe that's the one, because I got it. That's
parents.
why that's why I'm speaking to it, because I know I got
But
it.
as far as the district, because I personally found out about it viewing one of the board meetings, and you just mentioned building tours, and I was like, what is he talking about? And then you said something about it on the website. But when we say on the website, no one would know, first of all, how would we know that the district is doing a building tour? Then how would we know where to go and find it on the website? How would someone know to go on the website, the block up there that says bond, click on that, and then that's where you're going to find out about a building tour. So it's not like it's even on the home page or something. If somebody was scrolling the home page would know about the building tour. So when people say it's on the website, it's also about visibility on the website, and how someone would find it, and why would they be searching over there to find out about it.
Thank you.
And one thing you did not address is the eating conditions, the rooms for the children.
That would be a part of the Mandela recommendation from the Mandela Committee as well.
I'm talking about their current now, how they're eating now.
I understand that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't understand when you said that'll be a part of the committee.
The committee that is in place is will ultimately make recommendations. I don't know what their final recommendations will be, quite frankly, but they will be making a recommendation based on what they are proposing for Mandela. And then based on that recommendation, that will determine whether or not we are doing renovations this year, next year, during the summer, or where that fits in the fiscal planning for renovations to Mandela, or not.
Okay. All right, so then just lastly, so at this point, I know that the committee has not made a decision, a recommendation, but there isn't any conversation that can be shared with the community?
Regarding the status of Mandela,
Yeah, thoughts, plans, discussions.
there were
There's
two
nothing
conversations, there were two options available regarding Mandela. Initially, we had talked about closing Mandela and restructuring students into the CTE program at Mount Vernon High School. We have now asked a committee of folks who have been identified by the building principal to serve on a committee to make a recommendation. And this actually stems from conversations that I had with children who currently attend Mandela about their concerns about closing Mandela. What I will say is that something different has to happen at Mandela. Doesn't necessarily mean closure, but we certainly need to find a more effective and efficient way to operate that high school building, including maintenance, than the current situation.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, do we have a sense of timing on this committee? When are they going to have recommendations? Is it months? What are they doing?
Before March 15th, our second official meeting, and we've been working on some action steps from our first meeting. We had an initial meeting, and we talked about options, and our follow-up meetings were based on visiting another alternative high school, looking at alternative GED programs, the culture and the best fit for the kids, and subsequent meetings are going to address those issues and recommendations. Dr. Hamilton and myself are even going, we're setting up a meeting to visit and talk to the kids at Mandela, and today I had correspondence that we're going to try to put another meeting before the bond vote on the 15th and come out with some information that we can share with the parents of that community. So that's the focus of where the committee is at this point.
Okay, thank you. And
Safety, I forgot, the room that's so deplorable where they're eating, it looks like a safety hazard in the ceiling. Looks like it's going to cave in. There's an area it's sinking, like it's going to collapse.
And I just want to respond. Mr. McCormick just shared with me that the building tours were also listed in the Journal News and mass email sent to all parent email addresses as well.
On the
Have we done the building tour already? Have we done
we did.
it?
It was yes.
We did it already?
Yeah, we did. So, Dr. Gorman, is it? I still didn't hear. Is the committee prepared to make a recommendation in the month of March?
No, we are
Engaging in an action plan and goals and what the eventual needs of the students will be best met, whether you're closing or creating another alternative program, but that is just starting discussions, but we want to put out all of the points that were discussed on both sides of our concerns and their concerns, and they shared a lot with us, and so we're going to communicate that with you. We don't have an action plan for a solution yet because it's a joint committee.
Okay.
Need to look into if the ceiling looks like it's going to collapse. I think something needs to be looked into.
Right, Mr. Felicio will.
As possible.
So back to what I asked is by the next board meeting, Superintendent, if we can just come together with some type of plan, whatever the plan you feel best fits, and then we as a board will look at his plan and we will do whatever we need to do. But I think it's important that all of our students are in a conducive environment that's best suited for education. You know,
safe
even
environment.
Safety as well.
Are you talking about the long-term plan? Or
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about a short-term plan
fix?
that puts them in the best environment that we can get them in at this present moment. Because regardless of the fact, they're still students and they deserve a building that is in good condition for them to work in.
Some of these things don't sound as if they need to wait till the summer either. So I think that's what we're looking for is what are we going to fix in the next few weeks to make this a better environment for these kids?
Fair enough.
And to Ms. Crumb's point, I mean, in terms of the long-term plans at Mandela, obviously we all have opinions on this board, and we've, I think, purposely not talked about, apart from some initial discussions about kind of the overall bond, because I think it benefits all of us to have to make an informed discussion, and that's why we have a committee in place to really flesh out the options and have different options presented to us with pros and cons, so that when we have that discussion, we have it once and it's meaningful, and then we make a plan and move on it.
Okay, and Mrs. Crump, you said about taking pictures. Mr. Policio is always taking pictures of all the deficiencies, and we will have before and after pictures, I'm certain. Correct?
That's correct. I will tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., I will visit the building and have something on the superintendent's desk by the end of the day tomorrow.
Thank you.
We have, our last speaker this evening is Mark Stuckey.
Am I my brother's keeper? We are all keepers of the lives of our young people. A question, and it's dealing with the wellness program. Where are we and where do we stand with the wellness program within the district? Can anyone answer that question? Okay.
Yeah, just
Please look into that. Ms. Farquharson put the wellness plan into place, and if we don't have someone constantly doing an oversight of it, it gets lost. And we are our brother's keepers. That means we care, each and every one of you board members, about our young children. Mark Stuckey, resident of Mount Vernon. Good evening, board members. Dr. Hamilton, thank you for the video clip that you sent regarding the latest video that you put out. It was a very lovely piece put together.
Thank you. Thank you for encouraging me to do it, too.
As I said to you in the beginning of your tenure, I will work with you, I will support you, I will give you whatever you need that I have to give. With that said, with the bond that's on the table that is proposed to the residents, to the taxpayers of the city of Mount Vernon, it's something that has been missing and well overdue. We do need this bond, and we need it to go through to give a fresh look, not only on Mount Vernon, but on our young people. We all know if you give them something that shines, the attitude changes. There must be a way that you can reach more residents than what's taking place now. There's a lot of people who are saying, as Ms. Crump says, you know, I didn't know about the tour. Throughout the whole entire tour, there was only 2 faithfuls who showed up. To wind up going through the facility to see, to understand, to learn, and to take that information back to educate those who are in our circles. If there is a way that it can be reached out and you, the board, can show the residents what is going to take place and the phases that is going to take place in, please find a way, do so. Next thing I would like to speak on, I would like to have my time extended as well, is Parker Elementary School, which is one of the buildings that I am truly concerned about and I am very dear with, due to the fact a lot of incidents that took place out of Parker. First thing I'd like to know, what is the capacity of students for that facility? The second thing I would like to know, if we're going to go under a renovation as a large magnitude as it is, and you're going to start in, say, May, can this building be shut down completely till December? Hear what I'm saying. Shut it down, do the renovations, because you're going to go through K through 8. The money that we will save with those who are coming in doing the prevailing wage, and they will be coming in with a night differential, we should be able to bus our children to other schools for this from September to December to complete a job that have to be done in that building at one time instead of spreading it out. So look into what can be done for that, because I believe that will be a project that can be expedited very quickly The parents will wind up seeing what they're getting. It will change the whole entire mindset of North and South Side. Because everybody looks at Pennington is getting, Pennington is getting. If you turn around and you change the dynamics of those words and make that lateral change within it, I think Mount Vernon will wind up being once again in favor of the board doing things that they want to take place and move forward in doing. So there's little things that look at. Find out the way of getting the parents to come out to do tours. Well, this tour is almost over because tomorrow is the last one. And I have seen a lot, gave my input on a lot, as well as Ms. Crump has wound up seeing a lot and giving her input on a lot. You have done a great job thus far, board members. Hear what the people is saying, please. Thank you for allowing me the time to say what I have to say without cutting me short. Have a good evening.
I just want to respond to one thing that you said relative to the Parker. Initially, the architects that we were working with at the time indicated that Parker, the toilet renovations that needed to occur at Parker could occur essentially over the course of a summer, so there would be no need for us to close that building. However, now that we have new architects, they may very well be on the same timetable. It may even be quicker, frankly. But we would need to give the new architects an opportunity to really view the scope of the work in order for us to be able to say definitively how the phases will be impacted, if at all, and when the work at Parker will be done.
Oh, and one more thing. Thank you for your buildings and grounds advisor for taking us through this tour. He pointed out the things that are being done. He was a great tool that you have put in the forefront to lead the tour. So he did an excellent job, and he have done an excellent job on different things I have asked to do. I came to him with a big issue, dealing with Mandela fencing and Mr. Silva, and they're like on it. So I thank these officers, they are officers, for doing their job. Thank you.
Thank you. Here, I'd like to address, you had a question about the Wellness Committee. President Saunders and I are on the Wellness Committee, and we're sort of limited to what the federal guidelines are for food, and I would not be feeding the children what they're feeding, but these are the federal guidelines that we have to follow. So we get together with our consultant once a month, and she tells us what's going on in the food service division there. She stays on top of the people that are hired there, and problems that we have within the schools. She has an open line there, so I mean she can be called at any time if there's an issue.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, much more than that I can't tell you because I'm not there for the day-to-day operations of the food service, but I do know that they have to abide by federal guidelines.
No, I understand that they have to abide by the federal regulations. I do understand that. The problem we have, and it's not just here in Mount Vernon, it's throughout the land, obesity. It's not
Yes.
just children, it's adults as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is to wind up, if we change the mindset now, we can change the future later. If we wind up looking at what others are doing and piggybacking off of what they're doing, we don't have to work hard. Ms. Farquharson put something into place.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know it's just like a brand new car. If you give your child a brand new car and says, here, the child will only take care of it for a short period of time. But if they work for it, they'll wind up taking care of it forever. We put something into place. It was running. I don't want to see it fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
A good heart is a good mind.
Thank you.
I just want to second what you said about Mike's ability as a tour guide. I didn't go on every tour, but I made about a half a dozen. And he really is. He knows the buildings, and he knows what the potential is and what the issues are really well. And he's over the course of these, I've definitely gotten the sense of the types of changes, big and small, he's made in his tenure here to really improve efficiencies and make sure that things don't slip through the cracks. It's a big district and a lot of buildings, and it's very, very, very easy for things to slip through the cracks when you have 100 new issues every single day, which you inevitably will. So keep at it.
It's a cracks. Thank you.
One thing I'd like to mention regarding the tours is that we do and Mr. Perlicio, I know that we don't necessarily have a schedule, a calendar schedule too far forward. We usually do these a little bit more off the cuff on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. But if it works with the administration to maybe post these to the community, in the community they're certainly welcome to come on these tours with the rest of the Buildings and Grounds Committee. It just so happens that a few of them, the tours basically worked in tandem with the regular Buildings and Grounds tours, but we do have, I don't know, maybe at least another 9 or 10 remaining. So the community could very well attend those if we give them a little bit of advance notice, if we could make a calendar of them.
Okay, that completes the public comments. Moving on to the agenda. Next is reports from the superintendent.
Well, good evening, all. We've been talking about the bond, and I just wanted to give you a little update. We are making steady progress with communicating about the bond. Just for your information, the video, we've been trying to be very responsive to making certain that folks are well informed about the bond, when the vote is, and what the bond will entail. The video has been viewed over 16,000 times and shared almost 400 times, and seen by over 31,000 people. So we're getting a lot of traction on the video. Certainly, I think a great use of time and resources. I also got a couple of questions from board members during my call today, just in terms of what is the current architects working on, and I just want to share with you some information that is germane to what the architects are working on. They're currently looking at an extension at Mount Vernon High School, looking at an atrium and new lobby off the main gym. In addition to the addition at Pennington over the existing cafeteria, and possibly land acquisition at Parker School. A plan to move 8 land, track, and the football field at Mount Vernon High School. They've also been working on looking at a new entrance at Graham School and moving the parking lot to Columbus Ave, to the Columbus Avenue side of the building, and having an entrance. So these are some of the items that they have been working on thus far. I also had the pleasure of attending the National Conference of Education last week. I was particularly interested in looking at what the research says about closing the achievement gap, and I'm pleased to see that much of what we are doing is being recognized on a national, even international level in terms of best practices and how we're using data. This weekend, there is a special production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown by our performing arts student. There's a show on Friday and Saturday at 6 o'clock at Mount Vernon High School, and Sunday at 3. And that concludes the superintendent's report at this time.
On the, on the work being done by the architects now, the list you just ran through, are those part of the presentations that we've seen, that we saw previously?
No, actually, they are not. They are not.
So when you say working on it, what do you mean? Is it, just an initial scoping, getting ideas, and then they'll bring them back to the board to present to us? As opposed to doing full drawings, et cetera. What are they doing?
Mr. Silver, I don't know to what extent, I don't know if they've submitted any drawings. I have not seen any drawings.
Some schematics.
Grab the microphone.
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 I'm sorry, before you start, because I did step out, pardon me, maybe I missed that part.
Oh, the superintendent ran through a list of items that the architects are working on. Can you run through that list again?
Sure, sure. The prelude to this, during my calls today, a couple of board members just asked me what were the architects working on and if I could provide an update. They're looking at an extension to Mount Vernon High School, an atrium which would include a new lobby off the main floor, main gym, additions to the addition at Pennington over the cafeteria, the acquisition of land near Parker School to create a faculty parking lot, a plan to move the track and field football field at Mount Vernon High School to a different location, a new entrance at Graham School to include a bridge with a sidewalk to the school, and moving Graham parking lot to the Columbus Avenue side and having an entrance to the lot from Columbus Avenue where the stores and streets are currently located. Mrs. Ferron just asked to what extent was that work done, and I just asked Mr. Silver to respond to that.
The Facilities Committee met with the architects, along with our senior architect, and we discussed sketches that were done by the architect for all the things that Dr. Hamilton just mentioned. They presented several options for the fields, for the track and fields. One of those options for them to remain in place and be redone as we've planned. Another would be to move them to a different attitude, maybe 50 to 100 feet from where it is now. So we're talking about moving the entire 8-lane track and football field as a possibility. The plans, the original schematic design that was done by Fuller and D'Angelo for Pennington has been moved aside for the moment, and Giusalfi did a plan for as I understand it, a 12-classroom addition to Pennington coming off of the cafeteria rather than from another place in the building. So that would be removing the roof of the cafeteria and adding the extension from that point going back. The atrium that is proposed would be near the gym, would be coming out from the gymnasium and would create I suppose you could say a community room in the front of the high school, and the proposal for Graham is to create a bridge coming from the sidewalk across so that people would not go down a flight of stairs and then have to go right back up a flight of stairs because there's nothing on the lower level except the entrance. And so this would be to create an entrance to the building that would be a more appropriate entrance for that building. And also for that same building, the concept is to move the parking lot over to the Columbus side, but that is only just a sketch and a thought at this moment. That would, if done, would create a lot more green space possibilities within the building. At Parker, the idea was to acquire some land that's across the street that may have some small structures on it, but that is really not being used, and to create a faculty parking lot there, which would enable a lot more green space to be at the Parker School, which will, as you know, be a pre-K building entirely.
So, I guess just as some follow-up questions, this all sounds lovely, and some of it is intended to make life easier. We'll have greener space. I get it, but the pot hasn't changed. The bonds, we have a number. That's the number we're going to be working within. Is the initial work being done by the architect now just intended for us to see how much this will cost? And if we're making changes now, what are we giving up? Other schools?
This is just concepts that they are presenting. And we have not costed this out. We're just looking at concepts to see what these type of things might look like. And there's no plan to give up anything at this point, but we also don't know what these additions or scope changes that have been outlined here would do to the cost that, as we know them today from our two estimates.
So when they present to the board the work, these concepts, are they also bringing with that the cost?
I don't know that they have been, I think they've been asked perhaps to cost it out.
Okay,
but
that-
they're
that
looking
would
at
be
several
helpful.
different ways of doing everything.
Can I jump in here for 1 second? Basically, the bond is a transformational vision for the district. And that being so, we need a face of that vision. And these 4 facilities and the upgrades to the facilities helps to represent that change. Now, I believe that all falls into sort of like a master planning mind frame. So whether or not all of these get done under this bond or some of it, we have to think about how, basically when you're planning, doing any type of comprehensive planning for a city or master planning for a school district, we have to look ahead, think ahead, so that the things that we're able to build today keeps in mind what we would like for the district in the future. So a lot of this, some of this may not come to pass under this bond, but at least it gives us a framework. So we start to create a framework as to what we're envisioning. Without a goal, we're sort of like floating in the ocean, not knowing, what do we do today, and knowing what we want for tomorrow. So this is very conceptual. I think it's going to be presented to the board maybe in the following board meeting after the superintendent gets to work it out with administration and see, look at the feasibility aspects of it. But we need a goal, and this puts a face on it. You can't do a bond where you change all these internal pipes and electrical wires and you don't have a visual, something that stands out in the community that, as Mr. Stuckey said, really upgrades the life and the quality of life and the feeling that the community gets when they enter the that's
Good point.
Well said.
Good point.
Okay, thank you, Leslie.
I would like to point out something else, that nothing we do can be done without the permission from the state. So an addition to Pennington School requires the demographic study or studies that we've done. They must approve that the enrollment of the school through current enrollment, anticipated enrollment, housing developments, people moving in, redistricting, all of it has to justify an extension to the building, whether it be 6, 8, or 12 classrooms. When buildings are underutilized, the state typically will not approve certain changes to those buildings. So whether the atrium concept can be done now is problematical because the building is at least 50% underutilized. And the state, when I say the state, they will not aid at our 75% anything that they don't think we should be doing.
Is the meter running with the architectural
question.
firm? I mean, are we paying for these drafts?
The pre-bond fee,
Yeah.
the pre-bond is $54,000 on an hourly basis.
Well, but so what I'm getting at is, we've been working hard we worked hard to develop. I agree totally with having a master plan. I think that's
makes sense.
absolutely essential. However, shouldn't we be spending that $54,000 that we already approved on the bond itself, like the key elements, which are the K-8 and the pre-K to 8, and the 3 high schools? Shouldn't we be doing that vision first before we look at things that are beyond the scope of what we've looked at now?
Absolutely, and on top of that, while I agree with Leslie to this point that we do need some touch and feel items so that the community can see where this $108 million was spent. Being that unlike the last time where we did build 2 buildings, we had those tangible where we can say we spent $65 million of that $100 million bond on 2 buildings. But at the same time, I think we do have some of those tangibles. We already talked about upgrading fields. We already talked about getting Pennington the addition to the building. So I think we have a solid base to work from. And some of these things at this current moment, just even hearing them in short, I think takes the focus off where we need to be at this current moment. And hearing you say that, because I didn't even know that, hearing you say that within our pre-bond we only have 54,000, don't we still have to pay for the pre-bond services that we already paid for with Fuller and D'Angelo, that we're not using them? So how much was that cost that is?
I would have to check, but most of their pre-bond work was finished.
So we still have to pay for the services for Fuller and D'Angelo, pre-bond services.
Yes.
So that's already going to take away from that $54,000.
No, it's unrelated. We authorized Fuller and D'Angelo, and we authorized Gisalfi. So they're two separate things.
So what is the cost for this pre-cert where we're at right now with these concepts?
Maybe a different way to ask the same question is just for, I don't know if it's you or the superintendent or whoever, to tell us what is the plan in terms of bringing stuff to us, right? Or is there going to be like a comprehensive plan, concepts for every single building, and then we see that all at once? Are you going to bring us like, okay, the architects have gone through these 3 buildings, we're going to bring that to? I just don't really have a sense of how this is going to work logistically.
I think that's a great...
Before you answer this question, could I just, so you can answer it all at the same time? And tell me if I'm wrong, I thought the plan was already in place. Now those concepts should be within the scope of those plans. So we already have plans to add science labs. So now the scope should be on what type of science labs. What are these science labs going to look like? When we went on those tours with KD&G and Gisalfi, they showed us what different type of science labs could look like. You could have mobile science lab, you can have stationary science labs. So shouldn't the concepts be based within those confines already and not new concepts?
Let me answer that real quickly. Omar and Darcy as well. In terms of the classrooms, the labs, the layout of the classrooms, that stuff is really simple academic stuff that architects deal with all the time, and it doesn't require much vision, right? There are standards in how you lay out these classrooms, and they will be following that, but it doesn't require much work and much vision. The bond coming up, the community, if you send them a bunch of drawings of classrooms, they'll be like, okay, so what? The concept in terms of the buildings, the sex appeal in terms of the feel good is what we really need to visualize and understand. The rest of the stuff is really academic and it's really basic, and that happens really quickly. So in terms of how much of the money is spent on conceptualizing, let's say, the bigger, more visible projects versus, let's say, the individual classrooms, where the desk goes, that stuff is elementary and will come rather quickly. The other stuff, the visionary stuff, it takes a little bit longer to work on, but also it's the type of stuff, if we have now, that will help invigorate the whole the sense of the bond going out, and it will get people excited about it. Those are the types of things that really help to sell this idea and concept to the community. The layout of the science lab is not. So that stuff will come. It's pretty academic, it's pretty simple, and the architectural firms do this for a living. It's not a problem. This other stuff is what we need now to really get it out to the community, or really understand as a board where we're going and get us actually excited as well. So it's very important that that stuff happens actually first.
So we can't get that stuff out to the community, though, until we've, A, costed it out in the scope of the current budget, and B, voted.
Absolutely.
Wait, let me
Absolutely.
just finish, Leslie. And then let me just finish. And then we also have to vote on it as a board, because we have to vote on what's included in the bond, and we already did that. So don't we have to vote on that as a board? I'm just asking Dr. Hamilton. I mean, I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to understand.
No, of course, and that's why I think I started off mentioning that next week I believe there's going to be a presentation to the board as to what they've done so far, to see if the board's in agreement or not, has comments. All that stuff is going to happen. So yes, all this stuff is pretty rudimentary.
But that's vision. That's vision. That's not included in the 108 million, right? Because we're hearing tonight from the community that we have bathrooms, and I've seen the bathrooms. I have toured Mandela, and I have seen the bathrooms, and I have seen the conditions, and this speaks to Dr. Hamilton's moral imperative. You know, we can't expect children to feel good about coming to school if they're in these devastating conditions, and I would characterize them as devastating. So I'm just saying that we can look at a grand scheme for the future, maybe for the next bond, but right now we have so much work to do, and we know how much, when we rolled everything up, it was a lot more than $108 million. So I'm just saying that I just don't want to lose our focus on what we absolutely have to do, and also on the curricular emphasis of the 2020 vision as opposed to the physical emphasis. We all know that it's great if things look better, but, you know, I think Mr. Monroe made a good point about Afrocentric studies. We're looking at doing all these things to provide 3 specialized high schools. I think we need to make sure all our resources right now go to that, and I think we've done enough presentations to the community where I certainly wouldn't want to have to face people and say, well, we're not going to do so much of that or fix that sidewalk at that school, but we're going to have an atrium at the high school. So, you know, all I'm saying is I just want to stay focused, because I feel, just in my short time on the board, that we have a sense, we have a symptom of losing track and going off on tangents. I want to stay focused on the bond and focused on what we've agreed to so far, and I think that's the way we should be approaching this, especially with a vote in 2 or 3 weeks. Let's focus on what we've already agreed to, what we've already shared with the public numerous times, and then look at a master plan after that. I would really highly recommend that.
I
Can we
agree.
let the superintendent talk about a timescale?
I think that it is very important for us to be consistent, because there's an issue of integrity, number one, and we've already heard from our community that that's going to take some work to restore. So to the extent that we start to morph from what we've been saying publicly, there needs to be a process for how that gets communicated. One is a clear delineation about a reporting protocol and how information works its way to the board, so that we're having open discussions like this. To begin, we have a senior...
Don't need transportation, so let's not think that, nor will all students use it.
What I mean by that is all levels, because clearly, I think not providing transportation for the pre-K would defeat the purpose of having, you know, that
and that's what I mean by doing that now you're making it somewhat unequitable by providing it for specific groups, you know, because it begins to become too much. Because listening to the presentation that was done at the Magnet program the other day, because like I said, they already provide transportation for those students through the grant that she receives.
Is this the arts?
The arts program for those students that need it. Every student doesn't use the bus. My students don't use the bus.
But remember, with the K through 8 configuration, you're talking about continuity.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's being there. So it does eliminate kind of for some of the grades, you know, the need for transportation. But for the pre-K, definitely.
Absolutely.
You know, that's why we have to look at perhaps.
But then when you begin and say the pre-K, definitely, what about those students that are currently not using transportation and are walking to the school, to the high school, all the way from, let's say, Kingsbridge? You know, so as we look at it, understanding that we are going K-8, there are some efficiencies that K-8 provides for us that doesn't need us to offer it at a mass that we would need if we weren't going pre-K. But since we are going since we are going K-8, we're not probably going to need busing. So it's something that we have to consider, I believe, at large, and not just in pockets, and present to this, not only this board, but to this community, how we're going to solve this transportation issue.
Let's start the conversation. And
Well, I had a discussion with Mr. Silva about that earlier, and he's ready to respond to that, if you don't mind. We had a discussion about that regarding transportation.
Good evening. Is this still the same night?
It's been a long one.
The state is encouraging pre-K transportation. We know that the state aid for transportation will be 65%. So whatever it costs us to contract for buses, that would be that.
But is that going on forever?
That is correct. It's every year. It's 65%.
Okay.
So we know different aids are different ratio, are different percentages. Transportation aid for us is 65%. It's different for every school district.
Okay.
Are we currently getting that with the transportation that we provide for our special needs
We
students?
certainly are. We get it for all of our transportation.
So then it's not new.
That's correct. The difference in pre-K is that the cost is much higher because you have to allow for greater time for the children to get on and off the bus. Every seat has to have baby seats in it, and those baby seats can't be taken out and put back in again, so it would be difficult to use those buses for anything else during the day. And also, we have to be aware, as Superintendent Hamilton mentioned yesterday, I believe, that we have to be careful of how long those children are on the bus. The board will have to have a discussion about where they want that line to be. Do we want it to be a quarter of a mile, a half a mile from Parker? We're talking about the south side children now. We're not talking about the schools in the pre-K in the regular schools right now, just the center. So we would have to decide where we want to have that, and then we can proceed with it as we wish. The board would have to have a policy, and whatever that policy is, we would have legal help to do it, and we can proceed. Remember, we are talking about a year and a half from now that we would start this likely, and we have been working on it since we first started talking about the bond more than a year ago. We've been talking about transportation. We haven't talked to you, but we've been talking about transportation and figuring out the best way. We've looked at the possibility of buying buses. Toss that out. Doesn't make any sense for us. But just so you know, this possibility is available to us.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. So is that it for unfinished business? Dr. Hamilton, anything from you?
No, ma'am.
All right, motion to
A
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You guys want to go home?
I'll tell Rick. So who said the motion?
Let Rick know I motion.
Okay.
I motion to
I
adjourn this
second.
meeting.
And
No, I did.
like the motions?
They want to fight over it.
Yeah, we want to fight over this.
Wanda second.
Contact you, he's contacting Jeff.
Jerome.
Michael, put on your box.
I'll take the second.
Summer program that he has for teachers, you know, across the
No, I was looking.
and Mount Vernon, he